Melanie met Ryan in college, and over time their friendship grew into a romantic relationship. Then Ryan proposed to Melanie. By nature, he was a modest guy who studied hard, enjoyed sports and healthy lifestyles, and hardly ever went to clubs or parties. Melanie was the same type, so it was no surprise that they decided to get married at an age when many of their peers preferred partying. Unfortunately, in addition to the similarities in their characters, the couple had very different upbringings. Melanie spent her childhood and youth in a small town. Her parents raised 5 children. There was always joy and love in their home, and the mother, who was a housewife, had a good disposition. Ryan was raised only by his mother. Helen held an executive position in a large company and was accustomed that people were listening to her and obeying her commands. She followed the same style of communication with her own son. Of course, she loved him, but she always thought she knew better what he needed. Because of their different upbringings, Melanie and Ryan looked at things and problems differently. Melanie had a positive outlook on life and looked for something good in all cases. Ryan, on the other hand, always looked at things soberly and looked for flaws and problems. Ryan's mother was not thrilled about her son's marriage because she was sure that he would not make a career out of it. Melanie herself was ignoring her mother-in-law's disapproval, believing that her relationship with Ryan was stronger and their love could withstand all the squabbles and turmoil. Unfortunately, she soon regretted that she thought so recklessly that their union was strong. Upon learning of the pregnancy, Melanie was over the moon. At first, Ryan was overjoyed too, but after sharing this happy news with his mother, he soon changed his mind. Not daring to look into Melanie's eyes, he said guiltily that his mother had advised them to postpone having children because they were still young and just starting to build a career. Melanie was shocked by Ryan's hint and simply walked out of the room, leaving her husband alone. After that unpleasant conversation, they never talked about it again. Melanie decided that everyone needed time to calm down. She was sure that the baby's birth would be a real blessing for everyone, including the disgruntled grandmother. A month after that conversation, Melanie went in for a routine ultrasound and she was surprised. It turned out that she was having twins. The woman felt a real shock. She wondered whether to tell her husband, but eventually she decided not to tell anyone, fearing to provoke more anger from her mother-in-law and destroy the shaky peace that had settled in the family for a while. Ryan was not present at the birth of his sons. He arrived the next day with his mother. He tried to look like a happy father when he heard about the twin boys, but Melanie could clearly see that he was shocked and confused. Her mother-in-law didn't even hide her irritation. She looked at her grandchildren in annoyance and went out into the hallway, slamming the door loudly. Ryan seemed to come to his senses after his mother had left. He hugged his wife and told her not to pay attention. His mother needed to adjust because she was used to having things the way she wanted them to be. After that, he never came to visit Melanie and the children again. On the day when Melanie was supposed to be discharged from the hospital, she had been waiting for her husband for 5 hours. But no one came for her and the boys. Ryan's cell phone was out of service. Toward evening, Melanie called a cab and drove home. When she entered the apartment, she realized Ryan wasn't home. There was a letter and a small stack of money on the table. In the letter, Ryan apologized and said that he had rushed into marriage and, moreover, wasn't ready to be a father. He wrote that he needed to build a career, not change children's diapers. At the end, He said that his mother had helped him to get a good job in a new company branch in another city, so he wouldn't visit the children, but he promised to help financially. He also paid 2 months' rent for the apartment. At the end of the letter, he apologized again for everything, and especially for falling out of love with her and not fulfilling her hopes. When Melanie finished reading the letter, her legs buckled and tears gushed from her eyes. She cried with resentment and pity for herself and her newborn sons. The abandoned wife hardly slept that night, and in the morning she decided to return to her parents. Of course, it was a shock to them. Melanie had never told them about the hardships she had faced after marriage, and they thought their daughter had a loving husband and a perfect marriage. The first 6 months were a nightmare for Melanie. She thought that she was going quietly insane and that the baby's cries would never stop. But thanks to her mother's support, she survived this difficult time, and then it was easier. Ryan showed up 5 years later. The ex-husband had changed beyond recognition. He looked 10 years older, had turned a little grey, and it was obvious that he had given up the healthy lifestyle he used to lead. Melanie wouldn't even listen to him and just closed the door in front of him. 2 years later, she met Michael, who became a father to her sons, and then they had an adorable little girl. Dear friends, if you are going through hard times, never despair. All bad things come to an end sooner or later. Believe that there will be a happy life ahead of you, because the sun always appears after the rain, and behind the darkest clouds there is a rainbow